The Grove is fine dining, but it's really accessible. I've always wanted to have kind, intelligent, informative, snappy, but comfortable service.
Wow.
And I think the Grove really filled a niche where there wasn't many fine dining restaurants. So I think that was part of the success of the Grove.
Hello, my name is Renee Leith-Manos. Welcome to this podcast, Where to From Here, featuring conversations about luxury travel and how it's changing in every pocket of the globe.
Hello, this is Michael Dearth in Auckland, New Zealand. I'm a restaurateur, and I'm thrilled to be talking today to Renee on her podcast, Where to From Here.
Hi, guys. Today we're going to Auckland, New Zealand. Now, I've never been there, but by the time you watch this podcast, I would have been there because I'm going there in 2 weeks' time. I've managed to track down one of the country's most famous restaurateurs and most talented and most awarded restaurateurs. His name is Michael Dearth, and he has two fantastic restaurants, The Grove and Baduzzi, which I am hoping to try when I'm there. But he's going to tell us all about the produce, the food, and all of the wonderful things in Auckland. How are you, Michael?
I'm great. Thanks, Renee. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And I can't help but notice your LinkedIn profile is literally one of the best and most informative I have ever read because you are so humble and yet honest. And you call yourself a restaurateur that is definitely not a chef. So how does someone who's not a chef become such a successful, restaurateur?
Well, look, I love food. I love wine. I love people. I've been in the restaurant business my whole life. I mean, I started, washing dishes, pots and pans at 15 years old. And I also had my mother and my grandmother were amazing cooks. My father was an amazing cook, so we always ate well. I was always surrounded by really great food and the whole process of food. I think the reason why I have my little tagline is I'm not a chef is I have worked in kitchens, but I've worked mostly front of house. I'm a trained sommelier. I love wine. I'm a maitre d'. I love looking after the customers, of course, but and I've done some cooking on TV. So a lot of people they think I'm a chef, like a classically trained chef, probably because of my passion and my love for food and wine. But
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not a trained chef.
And of course, you are a household name in New Zealand because of your experience on MasterChef. Now, here in Australia, we don't know about your experience there. So talk us through it. How did you end up on that show? And what's it like to be on a reality show like that?
Oh, it was a great opportunity that really came my way, and it couldn't have come at a better time, really, because we were just the country was locked down with COVID, and it was really
Right.
challenging to kind of have auditions. I think I was approached, say, "Hey, would you like to go on MasterChef? We have a few people that were having to do the audition." And at the time, we weren't allowed to fly around the country. You had to be like a doctor or a nurse or somebody. So I actually had to go down to Queenstown from Auckland down to Queenstown. And I got a special flight. So it was actually a really big thing. I was like, oh, I'm actually going on a plane and I'm going down to Queenstown. So I was asked to audition, and Nadia and Vaughn and myself, we all got on really well. And so they asked me to do MasterChef. It was in Queenstown, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world, with crystal clear mountain lakes and the beautiful white cap snowy peaks, and it has its own little microclimate of beautiful produce. And so it was a great place to have MasterChef and to have people around New Zealand there. So it was a total honor. It was such a buzz to what when you see these reality shows and you see
Yeah.
people get a bit teary-eyed, and you're always like, what are they crying for? Like, how did and it was just bizarre. You get so close so quickly with these contestants because they wear their heart on their sleeve. They're working so hard, and you really see this beauty in them. And when they kind of don't, if they don't make the cut and they get voted off for some reason, it was really emotional, and I was really quite surprised. It was a really great experience. I loved it.
And did you actually cook on the show at all, or was it only the contestants on that version?
luckily I didn't have to cook during the show, so I didn't cook. No, I
Just a lot of
did.
tasting, a lot of eating.
I had the best job, because in the restaurant business, it's a pretty high, it was a stressful, it's like that whole saying where you see a duck looks all calm, but he's paddling his feet like crazy. It's like in the restaurant industry, it's so full on, but you have to have this facade of peace and calm and tranquility. And on the show with MasterChef, you're watching everyone like 10 more minutes, 5 more minutes, plate up, and all this. And then they're working so hard and there's so much stress, and all I had to do was just taste incredible food.
What a great job. And so
Yeah.
you loved or hated in New Zealand? Because I haven't seen it, so I wouldn't know.
I think I had the reputation as kind of the coach.
Oh, nice.
I was
The mentor.
I just was the coach. I kind of helped direct people, and I was positive but firm.
And tell me, given you've been a MasterChef judge, but of course you've been running these incredible restaurants, what's the secret to great food? And what's the secret to a really successful restaurant, particularly in the times we're living in now, where I don't know about New Zealand, but in Australia, a lot of closing. It's tough.
You know what? I think it goes down to a moment. I think a lot of people, you could buy duck fat at these gourmet supermarkets. A lot of people are home cooks. A lot of people love techniques. I have some of my customers have thermo mixes and water baths, and we're doing all these things at home. So people love it, and I think their skill levels up. So what we're providing, or what I try to provide at my restaurants, is you want to stop everything. Everyone has a crazy, stressful life. I think when you're in one of my restaurants, I think one of our gifts we can give people is you suspend time. We're giving you this moment. We're creating memories, but we want to surprise you. We want you to just really get lost in that moment. So I always tell my staff, is like, our art is giving people moments.
I love that. I've never heard a restaurateur put it like that.
Oh, good.
So special. I can't wait to come and see your restaurants and to experience what you're describing.
Yeah, we can't wait to have you.
Yeah. And look, tell us the story about how you ended up in New Zealand, because it's a love story. And being a single woman, I love a good love story, but it's a love story that's really stood the test of time.
Oh, it's classic. So it actually first started as a sad story, because I actually, what started my passion to travel is I was in a serious relationship at university, and we broke up, and I just said, I want to go travel. I was halfway through a university degree. So I came to this part of the world. I came to Australia, Southeast Asia, and New Zealand. It was a 2-year trip. And I did actually spend most of my time in Australia. I mean, I worked in Sydney, I worked in a prawn trawler out of Cairns, I worked in Dearth Rock at a few at the Four Seasons. And so, I mean, I was just a young.
Before you go on, how did you find the food in Australia at that time? Can you remember?
Oh, look, I was 20. This was 30 something years ago.
So you were probably having a lot of takeaway.
I mean, for me, I just was like, I was probably more into volume than quality.
Sure.
And I was just a hungry young man.
Understood.
So for me, I remember I was on the prawn trawler, and I just had, the very first day out, the captain let us eat our fill of prawns. So I just have a memory of just kind of eating another prawn, just one more prawn. And I just like, I can't eat any more prawns. I'm full of prawns. So, but I love the mangoes. I love the produce. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, I loved it in that sense.
Wow, fantastic. So yeah, sorry, continue the story, the love story. So you're in Australia, heartbroken from the previous.
Yeah, so I came to Australia because I'm just like, okay, I'm single. I'm coming to Australia. I overstayed my visa. I was asked politely, you must leave down at the closest port. So I actually got deported from Australia. And I was in Denpasar with a backpack full of dirty laundry, feeling sorry for myself. And kind of traveled through Indonesia, met a bunch of people, and I came to New Zealand, the land of the long white cloud. And I was really travel worn. I was like, I want to go back to the States. I'm halfway through university degree. I'm going to go back to Connecticut.
What was the degree? What was the university degree that you were studying?
Psychology. I got a degree in psychology.
Totally different to restaurants. Wow.
Well, it's actually perfect for restaurants. I mean, because I'm like a dad. I have like 65 staff. I've dealt with unwanted pregnancies, alcohol problems, gambling problems, theft, halitosis, I mean, I've dealt with so many things.
Clarifying, this is amongst your staff, not amongst your personal life.
No, this is with staff. As you know, so for me, being a restaurateur, I think having a psychology degree was actually
Yeah,
perfect.
massive.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, I fell in love with New Zealand, and I was, I was definitely, it was 2 years. I was travel worn, ready to go home, and I was traveling through the North and South Island, and it really, there's a saying in New Zealand in the Te Reo Maori, it's called Te Rango Waiwai, and that it means where you stand, but it means pretty much the country is calling you. And
Wow.
so New Zealand really just, it was calling to me. I was like, I need to live here. I need to live in New Zealand. So I went back to the United States, finished my degree, always worked in restaurants, and restaurants kind of sponsored my travels to like Europe and South Africa and North Africa and South America. And I just traveled all around the world because of hospitality. And then I was in San Francisco and I met Annette, my wife to be, and I told Annette, I was like, hey, if this is going to work out, you're going to have to want to move to New Zealand because that's my master plan. We're going to move to I want to move to New Zealand. So Annette was like, well, let's take me to New Zealand. Show me what
So, and
this
it's
is.
American. And it's American.
Yep. So Annette's from the Midwest. Yep. So I'm from
Okay.
Connecticut. Annette's from Michigan. And we met in San Francisco in a restaurant. And so we traveled to New Zealand and showed her around Auckland. This was 25 years ago. And she was like, oh, this is beautiful. I could totally live here. And so we got our visas. We did it right. We got our visa. We got all that sorted. And
Hang on. You had no friends, no job or anything in New Zealand?
No, we didn't. Yeah, we didn't know anyone. We just kind of came here pretty much on our
Wow.
own. We brought our cat, Pepe Nero, from California. He was a California kitty. He had a little California passport, a little kitty passport. And yeah, we came here to just a wing and a prayer, maxed out our credit cards, and we found.
Have you run restaurants before in America?
We've worked. I've always worked in restaurants.
Right.
And from everything, like I mentioned, from washing dishes to a bartender, to a waiter, to a manager and a maitre d', but we've never owned our own restaurants. Annette's worked in a lot of restaurant experience. She's worked in a lot of hotels as well. So we were just young, courageous, adventurous, and we're like, let's go to New Zealand to open up a restaurant. And
How
so
hard was it? How tough was it to open your own business back then in New Zealand?
to be honest, there was a lot of steps. I think for someone who was young and hungry and wanted to do it, I mean, I think we would have done anything. I think we were so driven. It was just there was a lot of obstacles that we had to overcome, but there was a lot of adventures. Let's just say that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And talk us through the restaurant scene and the luxury hotel scene. I mean, for tourists coming there to visit, what is it like now?
Oh, it's changed a lot in New Zealand. When we opened the Grove. The Grove is fine dining, but it's really accessible. I've always wanted to have kind, intelligent, informative, snappy, but comfortable service.
Wow.
And I think the Grove really filled a niche where there wasn't many fine dining restaurants. So I think that was part of the success of the Grove. And there's been
You've also just can I mention won a very prestigious award for the TripAdvisor
that was great. Yeah.
Yes,
11th in the world. 11th in the world.
Fine dining restaurant in the world. I mean, congratulations. That's phenomenal.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to get these awards, to get these accolades, and it's more because we do have a big team, and we do have a lot of people that honestly that care so much. So it's like when we get something like this that happens, it's just validation of everyone's hard work, So
And it has to be statistically, it has to be tougher to win an award like that when you're in Auckland than when you're in San Francisco, for example.
Yeah, I tell you, it's a hard graft. We do work hard. We work hard. We're owner operators. I zip between Baduzzi, which is our Italian inspired restaurant that's been going for 11 years, and the Grove, which this is our 20th year. We're celebrating this year,
Congratulations.
20 years. So you know, and I have two young teenagers, so 17-year-old boy and a 15-year-old girl, and so trying to get that balance of having two restaurants, two kids. We do live in a beautiful part of the world, and you know, like, we can't wait to kind of have you. I'm really looking forward to showing you Auckland, and you're going to love it because I feel really grateful to be living here.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you miss the US? Would you go back?
I go back to visit.
Yeah.
I have family in both coasts and the Midwest. So but the short answer is no, I'll never go back there to live. This is home.
Right.
You know, New
Yeah.
Zealand's home. New Zealand's home.
Particularly your children have been raised there, which puts a lot
Yeah,
of
so,
things down,
but
doesn't it?
both our children were born here. We have great roots. We've created a great life here. But you know, we go back often to visit family and visit friends, and we're never short of family and friends that want to come and visit us.
Fantastic. And how would you feel about your children following your footsteps into the restaurant business?
So my son is a bartender. He's kind of saving up some money before he goes to university. So he works a few nights at Baduzzi. My daughter, she works when she needs some spending money. I entice her to come and work at the restaurant. To be honest, one of my favorite day is when my wife Annette will be at the front desk hosting. I'm decanting a bottle of wine at a table, and I see my son and my daughter. We're all working, and then we all leave together. And I have to say, it's really special when those days. It doesn't happen that often, but when those days do happen, it's really, really special.
Yeah.
But do I want my children to go into the hospitality industry? I will try to direct them to go somewhere else because it is a lot of hard work.
It's just a lot of, because it's too hard, do you think, these days to start from scratch like you two did?
Well, I mean, we're seeing a lot of changes in our industry. You know, we're seeing, you know, the cost, you know, we see vegetables for a while there, you know, we had some really extreme weather, we had some floods, we had some cyclones, and there was a stage vegetables were more expensive than protein. You know, it's really
Crazy.
yeah, the costs, the costs and the wage cost is really high. And, you know, everyone wants to be the boss these days and nobody wants to put in the hours. And, you know, it takes a lot to be. I would encourage my children to probably to own their own restaurant or to own their own business. I would encourage them to follow their dream, to follow their passions, and to do things with their two hands and their mind. So I would encourage that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And talk to me about sustainability. When you talk about produce, I mean, how on the ball do you feel New Zealanders read this issue and food?
I think everywhere in the world we need to improve on this. And it's definitely, I mean, look, I love this planet. This is our only home we have. And I have my wife and I, we have two teenagers and we have children, and we're inheriting this planet. So look, I'm trying my best. You know, we try every avenue we can to be as sustainable as possible. I even go to the restaurants and I bring our vegetable waste to my little place here. We have a compost pile, and we're trying to do our bit. And we're
Amazing.
trying as much as we can we've done a little thing with the different composting businesses here and biodynamic growers. We have a lot of artisan producers that we support. So yeah, we try the best. I think New Zealand is great, but we could try a lot harder in that space.
Well, I mean, your lamb is so amazing. You see it everywhere in the world. I was sitting in India, in fact, with my son at the Oberoi Hotel in Mumbai, which is pretty fabulous. And our favorite dish was the New Zealand lamb that they had served in the bar. So
Oh yeah, the lamb is just yeah, everyone worldwide loves our lamb. The lamb is great. Well, I'll tell you,
and the wine. I mean,
the
some of
wines, yeah, you know, yeah, the wine, absolutely. It's like you have, you know, New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. If you pick up any
Pinot
wine,
Noir for me, love it.
yeah. Oh, you love Pinot Noir. So Central Otago is outstanding. You know,
Yes.
they call it the most dangerous wine region in the world. You know, we produce some wonderful wines.
Why do
So
they call it that?
because of the frost,
Ah, I didn't know
so
that.
you could lose your whole vineyard because it's the southernmost wine region in the world is Central Otago. And when the frost comes, when you have that first initial bud burst, you're real susceptible to frost. So, suddenly you'll have the beautiful warm days will go to very, very cold nights, or it'll happen and it could literally wipe out a whole vineyard.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's why it's the most dangerous wine regions in the world.
That's
They
really
love it.
scary.
Yeah.
And where do most of the tourists come from that you see in and around Auckland?
A lot of Americans. We get
Right.
a lot of
So
people from
close. So
yeah,
close.
we get a lot of people from Asia, a lot
Mhm.
of Chinese. We'll get a lot of Australians, of course.
Mhm.
And it's a bit of a buzz. I'll tell you about, when the Grove first opened, so 20 years ago, and it was really exciting to, suddenly our restaurant's full and people are kind
Yeah.
of, harder to get a reservation. And, when the phone rings and you see on the caller ID, like +44, and you'd be like, oh wow, someone in London or someone in the UK is thinking of my restaurant to call me. This is so crazy.
Wow. What a
So
compliment.
yeah, so I mean, tourists, we get people from all over the world that
And
come here.
it's not only tourists. Now, I know that you have had quite a number of celebrity encounters, and I read that you had lunch with Eva Longoria. Is that right?
Yes, that's true.
How did that happen?
So so we've had a lot of famous people over the years.
Yeah.
Uh, Eva Longoria came in to the Grove for dinner, and I looked after her, and it was, when I was in San Francisco for about 12 years, we would always see famous people would come into the restaurant. And I always would try to strike a balance of totally giving them space. If they want to talk and engage, we'll talk and engage. If they want to have privacy, just leave them alone. They're people too. They want to have their fun.
Yeah.
So Eva Longoria is sitting at the Grove. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. And she was so chatty, and she was like, oh, you own another restaurant. You own Baduzzi. She's like, I love Italian food. I have nothing to do tomorrow night. She's like, I'm going to come in to Baduzzi. And she's like, can you have your wife join? She's like, I want to have dinner with you. And can you have your wife join us? And I
Oh,
came
nice.
home from the Grove that night, and I told Annette, I'm like, Annette, I met Eva Longoria. She wants to have dinner with us at Baduzzi tomorrow night. And Annette was like, I'm not having dinner with Eva Longoria. I'm sorry. She's like, I'm not doing it. So
Really?
she didn't do it. I had to go solo, but I think, I
Why?
don't know,
Why would she do it?
she didn't want to do it. I don't know, maybe it was the pressure. I don't know. You're gonna have to ask Annette, but she
Yeah.
didn't want to do it. But I had dinner at Baduzzi with Eva Longoria and her husband. It was the three of us. It was pretty surreal. It was special. But I have to say, I have to give you, if you want my all-time favorite celebrity encounter,
Yeah.
I'll have to tell you, well,
Yeah, hang on.
there's,
Before you do, you just have to tell me, Eva Longoria is so tiny. Did she eat anything?
oh my God, Eva Longoria chowed. I say that I don't know if she's gonna, she just put down the food. She,
Fantastic.
she was eating. She was loving it. I don't know if yeah, she wasn't holding back.
Where does she put it? Wow. Wow.
In her
Wow.
mouth, and then she chewed, and then she swallowed it.
Thanks, Michael. Now, your favorite celebrity?
To all respect to Eva Longoria, but so first Marco Pierwhite,
Right.
he
Famous
I
British chef.
yeah, so he came. I actually interviewed him at one of those we had a food festival, and I interviewed him on stage, and he was like, oh, I want to come to Baduzzi. So he ate at Baduzzi 2 nights in a row. So he ate the first night, he ordered the vongole, and then he loved it so much he came back the next night and he ordered the same thing, which to me was like the ultimate
That's the
compliment.
biggest compliment ever.
Yeah. So I was buzzing for that for a long time. But my all-time favorite, Billy Joel came, and I'm from the East Coast US.
Wow.
I'm a hardcore Billy Joel fan.
Right.
And his whole band came in. Literally, they ate at the restaurants a bunch of days in a row without Billy Joel. And then on the Friday before his concert on Saturday, he came in, and I have to say, I was like a 16-year-old kid. I was just beside myself with.
What, was he lovely?
He was super cool, man. We talked about a lot of my favorite songs, and he was really cool. We talked about some of his older music and different songs that I've always loved, and actually I had an opportunity to thank Billy Joel for I mean, all those times I've been on road trips with my mates, belting out Billy Joel songs,
Yeah.
in singing and carrying on. And he brought so much joy to my life. And so I had an opportunity to thank him.
Yeah. No, he's definitely a joy bringer. And was he performing with his band in Auckland at the time? Is
Yeah,
that?
he was here in concert. He was here. Yeah, it was a Saturday night concert. So
Oh, fantastic.
yeah.
Wow. What a life you have. And tell me, do you travel a lot? And is it in luxury? And, how fussy are you about where you eat
Oh,
when you travel?
wow. I love to travel.
Yeah.
I really do. We'll take trips and we'll see family in the States. So there is a buzz about, going to New York or San Francisco. Those are two special places for us. But I mean, I love, love, love going to Europe. We've been, to Italy a bunch of times. I'm really fortunate. I get invited to go to Champagne,
Oh,
go to Cognac, go to Bordeaux. So I've been treated really, really well, stayed at different chateaus and Champagne, and it was just outstanding. And going
yes.
through all the different wine caves and whatnot. I mean, there's something about France and Italy that's super, super special.
Especially
So,
when it comes to food, don't you think?
oh, just so the simplicity, you could just get a handful of ingredients in the right season. People throw around that whole word of providence, but there is something special about how a strawberry tastes like a strawberry when you were a kid in Europe, and or
100%.
just the local fish and the way that they would just add a little bit of olive oil and cook it on a barbecue so simply. It's just sublime. Yeah. So, and I'll tell you, I sound like a snob, but there's, when you get invited
Oh,
to go to Barcelona, somebody invites you, like, I'm going to take you to Barcelona. And, I usually don't fly business class, but then if you get invited and you fly business class, there's something luxurious about flying business. Yeah. So should I go talk about, yeah. So when you're flying to Europe and you do get invited and you can fly business class, that's super luxurious if you have that opportunity. I don't fly business all the time, but flying to Europe, lying flat is super special. So Air New Zealand does a great job. I've also flown, Singapore Airlines, but when you do get to Europe and you can introduce yourself to some places like these gorgeous chateaus in Champagne, or, for example, we stayed in Cognac, and you get treated really, really well. They know there's 3-star, but then there is that next level, and they do it really well there.
yeah. And they only really have that next level in Europe, I think. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through 5 must-do food or beverage experiences in Auckland that are your favorites?
Okay. Well, you have to come to the Grove and Baduzzi. I mean, I have to
I'm
say
coming. I'm coming.
that, number one. So those honestly, but you can go to this. You can. What I really like is dumplings on Dominion Road. There's a street called Dominion Road that you have all these different restaurants that you can get Peking duck. You can get these gorgeous little dumplings and have some real adventurous fare on that road. It's really well known. So Dominion Road, dumplings on Dominion Road is super fun. You'll also have opportunities. If a lot of chefs that have worked for me over the years have gone on and opened up their own restaurants. Michael Meredith has a restaurant down in the Britomart called Mr. Morris. It's really outstanding. You should check that out.
Okay.
Mr. Morris is great with Mike Meredith. So the second restaurant, so another restaurant is Sid Sarwati used to work for me ages ago. He's an Indian descent, Kiwi, and he's opened up a fine dining Indian restaurant, but not really fine dining, but real accessible, outstanding eatery, and it's called Cassia. And that's
I read about that. I read
yeah,
about that.
that's
Yeah.
really good. And I'll tell you the best place to get a chocolate chip cookie
Yes.
if you're interested.
Yes,
So
I am. You've got my attention.
it's a deli called Ripe Deli, and it's on Richmond Road. And I'll tell you, it's a vegan chocolate chip cookie of all things. It
Wow.
was like taunting me for the longest time. I'm like, a vegan chocolate chip cookie, that can't be good. But it looked amazing. So I caved and I ordered one. And it's literally a weekly thing for me now. If I'm in that neighborhood, I swing in and I get a Ripe vegan chocolate chip cookie.
How amazing. And
Yeah.
tell me, how do you select your chefs? You've just touched on a couple who've gone and opened their own fabulous venues. And, you talk a lot, and we've already talked in this interview about the importance of great staff. You seem to have a knack with finding the best. What's the secret?
Well, I think for a long time, well, since the beginning, we wanted to find someone who was like a rising star. And when we first opened up the Grove, we found Michael Meredith, and when we sat around the table, we started to talk. I think one of the things that I always do is, like, my job is to provide the chef with the canvas, and it's their job is to paint the picture. And I think my wife Annette and I, we always would talk food, and it's like a language, and it's a language of love. And when you're sitting around the table, and if you can tell that you can speak the same language and you're passionate, and I think it is all about a collaboration. A restaurant isn't just about a chef, and it's not just about some big personality. It's really all about the customer, and you want the customer to come back, and you want the customer to have an amazing time, and the customer to tell other customers, so more customers come. So for me, when you can meet a chef that is open and that you can collaborate with, and they're able to make adjustments, it's one thing that you can get criticism, and a food critic can say, I didn't like that, and you can get all sensitive and pout and get offended. But it's another thing where if you can take on criticism and learn from it and make some, actually, if it's valid criticism and you make some adjustments, or even down to the matter, if a customer didn't eat everything on their plate, like, why? Like we need to know why. Do we need to make adjustments? And then so I try to ferret out. I want to get the most enjoyment out of them. So if I meet a chef, when we meet a chef and we find out we're kindred spirits, and we can have this conversation and we can have this collaboration together, I think that's what we try to do.
How fantastic. Look, I could sit talking to you all day, and I'm going to be able to talk to you a lot more in the next couple of weeks when I come and see you.
Yes.
Before we go today, we ask all of our guests, Michael, where to from here for you? And you can talk about what you're doing the rest of the day, your next trip, your next venture, anything you like, but where to from here for you?
So what I'm really excited about, what's up next is we're going in the July school holidays, in the middle of our New Zealand winter, we're going to summertime in France. We're going to go to Paris right before the Olympics. We're going to go down through the south of France. And then I'm really excited. We're going to Corsica. I've never been to Corsica, and I'm really excited to bring my children to Europe for the first time.
How fantastic. What a great adventure. Well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And I will see you in Auckland really soon.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I look forward to seeing you and welcoming you in Auckland. Yeah, and showing you a little part of our little part of the world.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Michael. It's great to meet you finally.
Yeah, nice to meet you. See you.
Don't forget to subscribe here and follow us on Instagram and Facebook for regular travel updates. You can also hear our episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.